Okay, so today we are continuing on with my favourites and non-favourites for the year of 2023, and today we are doing my best books. So these are the best books that I read. Doesn't really need much of an explanation. However, I do have a side note here, and that side note is that I'm trying to use books that I haven't spoken about a lot lately, already in my mid-year favourites and non-favourites, or so far in my end-of-year favourites and non-favourites. So all of the books you're going to see, I have a top 10 here. They all received 5 stars, but I was trying to show books here that haven't received a lot of attention in my mid-year favourites and non-favourites or my end-of-year favourites and non-favourites. So, that in mind, let's get into the top 10 books that I want to show you that all received 5 stars for this year. Oh, and one quick reminder, if you haven't seen any of these other videos, because I am filming my favourites and non-favourite series in the month of December, any books I read in the month of December do not count, so all of these books I read somewhere between January and November of 2023. Now, with the first 5 books, 10th place to 6th place, I'm not going to spend too much time on them in order to not run out of time. So let's jump right on in. Coming in at 10th place is Nate Plus One by Kevin Van Wy. This is a YA LGBTIQ plus male romance, and yeah, I gave all the books 5 stars. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Kevin Van Wy has become an auto-buy author for me. I really enjoy his books, and Kevin is African. In this book, we go to Africa because the protagonist of the book, Nate, is African, but he lives in the US, I believe. He's in, the US. At the start of the book. But anyway, we go back to Africa, and this gives Kevin Van Wy an opportunity to speak about where he came from. And yeah, really enjoyed this book. And Kevin Van Wy, as I say, an auto-buy author for me. I highly recommend Kevin Van Wy's books. Coming in at number 10, Nate Plus One by Kevin Van Wy. Coming in at number 9 is this book, Death of a Bacon Heiress by Lee and Hollis. This is book number 7 in the Haley Powell Food and Cocktail Mystery series. It's an adult cozy mystery. So for me, this was one of my favourites in the entire Haley Powell Food and Cocktail Mystery series that I've read so far. I've read the first 12 to date. And it's one of Lee and Hollis's best in my opinion. I've always loved Haley Powell's column, and I loved it very much in this one as well. It was so evenly spaced out between the sections of the book. I loved that we worked with a bacon theme this time around and was salivating when reading all the recipes. We had a character in this book that reminded me of Rosie O'Donnell, who I absolutely loved, and I hope we get to see more of her in the future. There was a tough ending. I won't say why because of spoilers, but it was a tough one to see. The reveal was pretty good as well, but yeah, I just had so much fun with this book. I love the series as a whole, so to be able to point to one book in an entire series that I love and say, this is probably my favourite in the series, is fantastic. So there you go, book number 7, Death of a Bacon Heiress by Lee Hollis in the Haley Powell Food and Cocktail Mystery series, comes in at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Death the Deep Dive by Josh Lanyon. This is book number 7 in the Secrets and Scrabbles series. It's an adult cozy mystery, and I love this series overall. We follow a male protagonist, which isn't the norm for cozy mysteries, and that male protagonist just so happens to be gay. Again, not a norm to follow a male or a male gay character in a cozy mystery series, so that makes the series itself intriguing, but I love the series overall and definitely loved this one. So I'm usually not a fan of cold cases, and a cold case features in this book. The reason I'm not a fan of that is because we don't get the opportunity to be invested in the situation before the death occurs. Unlike in a standard case where we meet the person, find them to mostly be unlikable, and then they die, which brings about the intrigue of the whodunit. But with a cold case, we don't know them, and so therefore have no reason to care. But Josh Lanyon has created a world that I love going back to each and every time. I love our protagonist, Ellery. He just has a ton of spunk, and he is just a fantastic character to follow. His boyfriend, Jack Carson, clearly cares for him incredibly deeply, and not only caring for him in, like, he loves him, but also for his well-being, which I appreciate. I love that they have this dog named Watson, who is just an incredibly adorable dog. I mean, despite my absolute dislike and even disdain of cold cases, I couldn't help but love the book, as I love this world so much. The world building of this book made it earn the 5 stars that it did. The reveal was great, the character arcs have shown great development, and Ellery as a sleuth gets better and better with each book. This book was fantastic. The ending was pure gold. I absolutely loved it. So coming in, therefore, at number 8 was Death at the Deep Dive by Josh Lanyon, an adult male cozy mystery. Coming in at number 7 is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. This is a YA contemporary that I just absolutely loved. We follow Eliza in this book, who is very much an introvert. She's very introspective in the way that she thinks. She's very antisocial, and that is what I loved about this book. I really enjoyed this deep dive look into introspection. I loved seeing Eliza living through the lives of her characters. Eliza creates this web comic series, and she lives through the characters. That's her way of living, which just it was very new and very different for me, but I very much enjoyed that. I also enjoyed our side character, whose name is Wallace. Wallace serves as Eliza's peek into her physical reality, which was fantastic to see that we have this introverted person who is finally approached by someone who is able to take their time with Eliza and slowly try and introduce her to a world outside of her own, her actual reality, as opposed to the reality she's created for herself. But, Francesca Zappia's look into introversion and introspection in this book bowled me over. She did an amazing job, and it was worth 5 stars. I would love to read more Francesca Zappia in the future. So, coming in, therefore, at number 7 was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, a YA contemporary. Coming in at number 6, and just missing out on the top half of my list, is this book, How It All Blew Up by Arvan Ahmadi. This is an adult LGBTIQ+, and I just absolutely loved this book. So I had just come off reading a duology that centers around a Pakistani Muslim girl, and decided that I would love to read a fictional work surrounding a Muslim gay male. And I came across this book, and the basic setup of it is that this guy who his name is Amir and his family are on a plane, and suddenly they are arrested. We don't know why, we don't know what the circumstances are, and then we go back in time because they're placed into these rooms where the cops can question them and stuff like that. And so Amir needs to go back into the past to explain everything that led up to them getting arrested. And it's not for the reason that you may think. They didn't get arrested because they were Muslim. So if you're thinking that that's the reason why, know that that's not it. So go into this book knowing that it is something else. All in all, this is a really, really beautiful book. Amir ends up traveling from one country to another country and having some amazing experiences while over there. I really, really enjoyed the contemporary aspects of this book, but also the reason I went into the book was because I wanted to see how a fictional, own voices author, because Arvan Ahmadi is a gay Muslim, would tackle the coming out trope with a Muslim family and Muslim child. And I felt that that was done really well. Given that was the reason I went to the book, I felt that was handled very, very well. But I really enjoyed the contemporary side as well. So absolutely loved it, and highly recommend it if you'd like to read something like that. Now let's move into my top 5, and coming in at number 5 is a book that I originally read that contained 2 separate books, but then I decided to rate those books separately because of how much I loved this one. Coming in at number 5 is specifically Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Originally, the book I read is a 2-book bind-up called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, which is book number 2. I did not like Through the Looking Glass, but Alice's Adventures in Wonderland got an overwhelming 5 stars for me, so I decided to break them up to 2 separate books and rate them separately because I loved Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This is a middle grade classic. So the premise of this book is that Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is an 1865 novel written by British author Charles Ludwig Dodgson over the pseudonym Lewis Carroll. It tells of a girl named Alice falling through a rabbit hole into a fantasy world populated by peculiar anthropomorphic creatures. My goodness, I'm tripping over my words, but do not take that on the book because the book was fantastic. So yeah, I absolutely loved this book so much. I thought it might be hard to read being a classic, but it is really easy to read. And Alice's adventures were fun to follow. From the White Rabbit who's always running late, to the entertaining caterpillar, to the Duchess, the trial, and everything else in between. I had a blast reading this book. I just want to give you a quick example. I've spoken about classics before and how some the standard for classics is that they're really hard to read because they were written a long time ago. But I've spoken about some classics that are really easy to read, and I just want to give you an example of how easy this one is to read. So here's the sample. After a while, she remembered that she still held the pieces of mushroom in her hands, and she set to work very carefully, nibbling first at one and then at the other, and growing sometimes taller and sometimes shorter, until she had succeeded in bringing herself down to her usual height. It's really simple language, and I love that because sometimes classics are so hard to read, but this was really simple, which allowed me to fall in love with the fantasy that was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Coming in at number 5, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Coming in at number 4 is Have I Told You This Already? Stories I Don't Want to Forget to Remember by Lauren Graham. This is an adult memoir and I gave this book an overwhelming 5 stars. I came off, I think last year or very late the year before, reading Lauren Graham's first memoir, Talking as Fast as I Can, and I loved that book and couldn't wait to get onto this one, and I love this one just as much. In this work, Lauren discusses things she doesn't want to forget. She talks about it in a way as though it is a book of many different essays, all on varying different topics. From Ryan Gosling, to comparisons between the character and a real person, to marmalade and squirrels, and everything else in between. Even Old Lady Jackson making an appearance. This book will take you on a wild journey. It may not be an epic fantasy, it may not be an intriguing sci-fi, it may not be a thriller that keeps you on the edge of your seat, but what it is a delightful conversation that you find yourself having with someone that you could be proud to call a dear friend. So, there is so much that I want to say about this book, but we'll run out of time. So feel free to go back and take a look at my original review on this one, which you'll find in my January 2023 monthly wrap. But I just quickly wanted to spend this time saying that Lauren Graham, the way she writes both Talking as Fast as I Can and Have I Told You This Already, she writes it in a way as though she's having a conversation with you as her friend, and I just find that to be so fantastic. It's like she's invited you to sit down with her to lunch or dinner, and while you're waiting for the meal, here's Lauren telling you things about herself and experiences she's had, things she's learned, and just with that fantastic humor that you may know that Lauren Graham, the actual person, has, or even the character she plays, Lorelai Gilmore, has. Because Lorelai Gilmore and Lauren Graham, they speak very similarly. They have a very similar humor. They are two very distinct characters, which Lauren Graham makes a point of in this book, in that Lauren Graham, the person, and Lorelai Gilmore, the character, can be very different people, but the way that they speak and their humour is very similar. I want to very quickly go to a point in this book. It's a chapter entitled Old Lady Jackson Takes You to Dinner at 5 p.m, which that title of that chapter personifies Lauren Jackson's memoirs. It's someone taking you to dinner. And I just want to read you the first paragraph in this chapter. In my first book of essays, I introduced Old Lady Jackson, a kind, slightly conservative grandmother type, a character I'd created during parenthood, designed to shield me from seemingly uncool or out of touch with my younger co-stars. As in, I love your 15th nose piercing, but Old Lady Jackson wonders if maybe you should stop there. And it might sound strange, but since then readers have asked after her, and she's generally sort of taken on a life of her own. So I thought I'd let her take you to dinner at 5 p.m. and tell you how she's been managing her newfound notoriety and what issues have been on her mind lately. I love the way that Lauren Graham talks. This character, Old Lady Jackson, she just invented her while filming Parenthood. I haven't really watched Parenthood, but she has these two kids that play her, these children actors who play her kids in the show. And yeah, as the paragraph was saying, you know, I don't mind that you're getting that 15th piercing, but Old Lady Jackson wonders. And that's just the way she talks. I love this book. I highly recommend reading both of Lauren Graham's memoirs, because they are absolutely fantastic. Coming in at number 4 for me for my top 10 books of the year is Have I Told You This Already by Lauren Graham. Coming in at number 3 is a book whose review on Goodreads I started with the words, "And that is how you do it." And that is Christmas Criminals and Campers by Tonya Kappas, which is book number 4 in the Campers and Criminals series. It is an adult cozy mystery. And that full heading that I have for my review of this book is, "And that is how you do it, Tonya Kappas." An overwhelming 5 stars. So the basic setup of this series as a whole is that we follow a woman whose name is, oh my gosh, I forgot what her name is. Mae West. How did I forget her name? I only read this particular book last month. Mae West, who, okay, her husband and her are divorced. He left her a caravan park. That's the only thing that she has after their divorce. She goes down to the caravan park and sees it is completely run down. So she now plans to basically run the caravan park and bring her back to a place of glory, which apparently used to be a place of glory back in the day. And yeah, it's just a whole lot of fun. But in this particular book, famous author Nadine is coming to stay at Happy Trails. And what a coincidence, the laundry ladies, who are a group of ladies who meet in the laundry, sometimes they read books, sometimes they gossip. Mae West is part of that group, just finished reading one of her books. Nadine would like her camper to look all Christmassy, so Mae sets out to do just that. But then Nadine and her attitude arrives at the camp. One thing leads to another, and Nadine is found dead at the library where she has just done a reading. Standing over her body with a bloody knife is everyone's favourite librarian, Abby, making her the prime suspect. But Mae knows it wasn't her, so it's time to adorn her sleuthing cap once more to determine once and for all who the real killer is. Yeah, so I, gave these books some interesting ratings, the first 3. So I gave book 1 4.5 stars, book 2 4.5 stars, and disappointingly gave book 3 3 stars. And the reason for that was because there was always at least one con in those books, but this one to me was flawless. From the Christmassy theme, which is always a plus to my mind, to the setup of really getting to know Nadine before she was killed. Remember, I spoke about cold cases earlier. To the ladies who laundry, which I was beginning to have a soft spot for Bets, by the way. And of course the gorgeous dog Fifi, nothing was amiss. In this one, Mae's adoptive mother comes down to stay for Christmas. I also love that Tonya Kappas didn't just skim over that whole thing, but rather brought it through amazing character insight and growth to a compelling conclusion. The mystery was as exciting too, as I mentioned earlier, we'd gotten to know Nadine before she was killed, so I was heavily invested in finding out who killed her and why. I even guessed the killer, which I've only ever done twice before in cozies. But this wasn't because Kappas made it obvious, but because her clues had my brain working overtime, fitting all the pieces together. It was that enticing. This book, in a word, was so completely satisfying. Coming in at number 3 and winning the bronze medal for my favourite books of the year, 3rd place, is Christmas Criminals and Campers, book number 4 in the Campers and Campers and Criminals Cozy Mystery Series by Tonya Kappas. Coming in at number 2 is a second book in a series. I love with best books, it doesn't matter where they are in the series, you can pick any book and go, this was my favourite. So this is book number 2 in the Housemates series. Winning the silver medal for my second favourite book of 2023 is Like a Lover by Jay Northcott. This is an adult male LGBTIQ+ book, and I, again, of course, gave the book 5 stars. So the setup of this particular series is that we have all of these housemates, I guess, and hence why it's called the Housemates series, who all go through their individualistic gay experiences. Book number 1 was like 95% spice, and the rest was like a little bit of an introduction and a little bit of an ending. This book was much more padded. It was more 50-50, which I really appreciated. So the premise of this one is that Josh has a plan. Get through a uni with a good degree and no debt. Focus on his goals. He pays his way by working as an escort. Falling in love definitely isn't part of the deal, especially not with a client. But when Rupert meets Josh in a bar, he's smitten on sight. With each encounter, the lines get blurred, creating something that feels more like a relationship than a business transaction. But they come from different worlds, and to go from client and escort to lovers seems impossible. If they want a future together, Josh and Rupert have a lot to overcome. So to my thoughts, I love the series as a whole so far, and need to start off by acknowledging that Jay Northcott as a writer captivates me with each and every single page. Like, seriously, each and every single page, I'm just captivated. Emergencies can be going on in the background and I just wouldn't know. That's how captivated I am by each and every single page of what Jay Northcott writes. So to my thoughts on this specific book, one thing I've learned is that the series is correctly named, which I very much appreciate. Each book seems to be set in the same house that has a bunch of housemates, but each book seems to be its own story about a different housemate for each one. In this one, we follow Josh and learn of his career as an escort to pay his way through school. For a spicy romance, this worked well, but I truly loved the actual story as a whole. Book number 1 seemed to be, as I said earlier, 95% spicy, 5% romance, but this one was more 50-50, and I truly appreciated that. It allowed me more time to get to know both Josh and his love interest, Rupert, as aside from everything else, this book is dual perspective, which I loved. Oh my gosh, you guys, how many of you out there prefer your romances to be dual perspective, where we get the perspective of both characters and not singular perspective, where we only get the perspective of one character? This book was dual perspective and I loved that. Nothing at all stands out for me as a con. Jay Northcott deserves every single one of the 5 stars that I gave him, and I cannot wait to read book 3, which I'll be reading the final 3 books, 3, 4, and 5 in 2024. Coming in at number 2 with the silver medal is book number 2 in the Housemates series, Like a Lover by Jay Northcott. Alright, it's time for book number 1. Drum roll, please! Coming in at number 1, receiving the gold medal, really surprising me, but after a lot of introspective work to find out which one stood above the others and hadn't had a lot of airtime, this one definitely had to be number 1. It is a classic. The genre is classic, which really surprises me. I love my classics, but who knew a classic would make it to number 1? And classics are classics for 2 reasons, one of them being they stand the test of time. This one not only stood the test of time, they kept me entertained all the way through. Coming in at number 1 and winning the gold medal for my absolute favourite book, best book of 2023 was this book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is book number 5 in timeline order in the Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. This book was absolutely fantastic, and I'm getting all emotional here because I'm just remembering how much I loved this book when I read it. One of the most amazing things about how fantastic this book is that it's a novella. I kid you not, this book is literally a novella, and yet it was so entertaining from start to end. So for those of you who don't know, the Chronicles of Narnia series, most well known for book 2, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, is basically a series that revolves around these children, different children in different books, who end up going into this alternate reality known as Narnia, where fantastical things tend to occur. In this particular book, book 7, in the timeline period, we follow these children who end up going on a boat called the Dawn Treader. So the Dawn Treader is the first ship Narnia has seen in centuries. King Caspian has built it for his voyage to find the 7 lords, good men whom his evil uncle Miraz banished when he usurped the throne. The journey takes Edmund, Lucy, and their cousin Eustace to the eastern islands beyond the Silver Sea towards Aslan's country at the end of the world. So to my thoughts on this one, I have to say that this is my favourite of the series. Absolutely my favourite of the series. It was so wondrous and so whimsical. So many different things happened that showed me the extent of C.S. Lewis's imagination. I loved seeing Prince Caspian again, and it was good to have Eustace there, and I really appreciated his character arc throughout the book. I grew to love Reapy Cheep the mouse as well. It was a fantastic book. If you are looking for whimsy and wonder, and then more whimsy and wonder, and then if you're not done, more whimsy and wonder, you cannot go past The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. It may not be as well known as The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, but in my opinion it outrates The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by a mile. And if you have not read the Chronicles of Narnia, or if you've only read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, I highly recommend reading The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. It is a short book, but it is so fantastic that it deserves to make it to gold medal status as the standout #1 gold medal winner for my best book for 2023. Okay, so that is my best books for 2023. So we have some more videos coming up, so let's continue looking forward. So the next video coming out is my SAS list for 2024. Yes, I'm excited. I can't wait to show you what's on my SAS list. For those of you who don't know, a SAS list was created by Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books, and it is where you put a certain number of series onto a list, just, in short term, a certain number of series onto a list, and you hope to either start, continue on, or finish that series by the end of the year. I have my SAS list ready to go. I've had my SAS list ready to go, I think, since the beginning of October, and I had the first 11 months of the year TBR for next year out of 12 ready to go by the beginning of November. So I can't wait to share it all with you, and it's coming up in the next video. And then following the SAS list, I'm going to do my goals for 2024. I love doing goal setting, so it's going to be great to see. I don't even know still yet what they are. I still have to come up with them, but to see what my goals will be for next year. And then we're going to break quickly from favourites and non-favourites to do my January TBR. And then we will do my 2023 goals check-in, where we look back at all the goals and how I did for the year of 2023. So much more to come. So therefore, if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you can get all notifications. So you'll be notified each and every single time I do upload a video. And you guys, I have a very, very, very exciting project in the works. I can't say what it is yet, but a very exciting project in the works for January as well. So even when we get to the end of the year, though the favourites and non-favourites will be over, it doesn't mean that amazing videos will be over, because we have a massive project involving myself and another booktuber doing something that's going to be a whole lot of fun. But in the meantime, that is where I am going to leave it. So I'm going to let you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Please do be kind and love one another and spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. And until next time, happy reading. Bye everyone.